Hey, beloved. Welcome back to Be with Beloved. So, in last week's video, I kind of broke down into what the purpose a little bit, slightly, a little bit, provided a synopsis of the space, but I did not necessarily share what led me to this space. And I said that I would um, provide or share my story or stories and what led me to be with Beloved. And in doing so, I'm hoping that people will find themselves in my story, or at least just the part of being in your own middle, and maybe finding that sometimes the people closest to you can't really hold that middle for you. And not that it is their responsibility to hold it, but some people just don't really know how to be present in whatever you're faced with and whatever you're going through. And so that is the purpose of this space. It's not for others to be, it's not for us to be polished and showing off the I made it through the other side of my story, and here's the presentable, polished, cooked version of my story or our stories, but just more so the messy side of it. And our stories shape us, and it shapes us into becoming who we are. And we can either learn and grow from it, we can grow compassion for others from it, or we can be bitter and just say, you know what? Forget people. And I'm just going to be about me and mine and just put myself first above anyone and everything. And so our stories, it matter, and it can shape us. So I wanted to clarify what I meant by the middle, and also share in series, will be in sequence of my story and what led me to this space. So that's the purpose of today's recording. And when people hear, or you hear the middle, you kind of tend to think about something being like in the middle of something financial, or financial strain, or financial situation, or an illness. And I'm not saying that that's not considered a middle, but I'm also talking about like the nitty gritty part of our lives. For example, you may be a parent and you're juggling so many things at once, and you have no reprieve, and you're kind of like, I really wanted a family, but this is overbearing, it's overwhelming. And I'm ashamed to say I love my family, but oh God, I need a break from them, right? We're ashamed to say that in certain spaces. We don't really give room for that. So it's kind of like, don't complain, you're complaining. And that makes you less of a believer, or less of a person of faith if you complain. Or I don't like to use the word complain, or if you express yourself, what you're feeling. And so the middle is about whatever it is that you find yourself in that can be overbearing. It could be too much, or you just don't know where to leave it. You may be away from the church, or you may just go to church weekly. So traditionally, you get up, you go to church. You know, it's a habitual. I go to church weekly, and I hear the word, and every Sunday I come to the altar, and I lay down my burdens, but then I take it with me. I don't leave it there. Or people want to come and pray for me, and they want to ask, specific questions. Or when I really blurt it all out, they're kind of like, ooh, that's not really in the terms and conditions of being a believer, or terms and conditions of being Christian. And so the middle is about you being honest with yourself, and also kind of finding that space to say, hey, I've considered therapy, but I can't afford therapy. Or I'm a little hesitant about going because, I've heard there's a stigma around talking to someone, and there's a stigma around mental illness. So I grew up in the church, and we just don't believe in that kind of stuff. Whatever the case may be, the purpose of this space is more so a place for you anonymously to be just share, just let it out, just vent. If there is a question, if there are any questions that you have, feel free to ask that question. You may be embarrassed to ask a specific question. You can send that here. I don't claim to know it all, because I don't. And who does? It doesn't matter how many degrees you have, you still don't know it all. So that's not what this space is about. But, anyways, the purpose of this recording was to share pockets of what led me here. And there are sequences in our lives. I don't believe in coincidence or coincidences. And I truly believe that there are sequences that shape us, shape a part of our stories that leads us to some people created or started businesses or ministries based on their story. Some people wrote books based on their lived experience. So our stories shape us, and also our story matters. Every last one of us, whether it's polished or not. And I preferably rather the unpolished versions of our stories because those are the ones that tend to be more relatable and people are like, damn, I thought it was just me. So I will start with this leg of my journey, which led me to be with Beloved. So it was in 2020 when I had a space, I had an extra room, and I allowed a distant relative of mine to stay with me. Now, I know people when they hear stories like this, they're like, I already know where this is going, and it is going exactly where you think it is. It's going exactly where you thought it would go. It is definitely going there. That distant relative I allowed to stay in my space. And I tried to be a woman of my word, right? So I'm going to say some things here and you're going to be like, wait a minute, you're going to have some questions. And like I said, if I were to share my whole journey, we'd be here for days. But like I said, there are sequences that I will share that shaped who I am today or becoming because I'm still growing, I'm still evolving. I haven't arrived yet and I don't want to. So that distant relative of mine, I allowed to stay with me, and she formed a relationship with my mother. And again, you're going to have more questions, but these are only sequences or pockets of my story. I can't share it all in one day or one recording. She and my mom developed some form of, I don't even know, I can't even say bond or friendship because personally I'd have to give you a backstory and to provide more context about my mother. And God bless her. She's still here. But this distant relative of mine, her mother was definitely in her life, very hands on, very protective of her adult child. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case or has ever been the case for me and my mother. But long story short, they developed this relationship and the young lady basically, just to sum it up, like she wasn't paying any rent. She wasn't contributing to rent, paying my bills. So it was just kind of, I found it to be strange that she just wanted to take over my household, I guess, or my space. It's like I guess for me that's my fault because I made you so comfortable that you felt like I'm just gonna go ahead and just claim this space to be mine. And that means I'm gonna dictate how I move in your space. And you just need to be okay with that. Not even dictate how I move in your space. I'm gonna dictate how you move in your own space, basically. To sum it up, because it's a long drawn out story, we're not gonna cover all that today. Um, the young lady decided that there was some, like when I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, how does someone even think that? But I guess, I don't know. I guess she just wanted to control some things. Or I don't know. She just basically wanted my head on a spike. She just didn't like the existence of me even putting the effort of getting up in the morning and just trying to make $1 out of 50 cents, I guess. I don't know. I'm saying this out loud and I've shared this story numerous times and I still can't wrap my brain around why, meaning like what reason I gave her to come for me the way that she did. And sometimes you don't have to give people a reason to dislike you. Some people just just don't like you because they just don't like people. They don't even like themselves. So how can they like you? But she tried to run things, and there were certain which I picked up on because of my mother and knowing the woman who raised me, and also just knowing who she is. I just kind of knew, like, okay, you've been talking to my mom more than you should have. And so I don't, whatever she said to you, it has made you believe that, you know what, her own mother don't respect her, or she has little value in even her mother's eyes. So I might as well just run things. And I don't even know what I mean by run things. Honestly, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. But anyways, it came to the point where I had to ask the young lady. I was like, okay, you gotta go. What led to me saying you gotta go? And you're probably kind of like, even though I haven't shared everything, you're like, what led to it? That right there should have led to you asking her to leave your space. But I was at work. This was 2020. I could still go to work, and I was an essential employee. And so I went to work, and while I was at work, I received a message from said guest in my space, which I would later offer, like, hey, have this extra bedroom, so when you get on your feet, then we can make this a permanent thing, and add your name to the on the lease or whatever. Da, 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 da. Because that was in the works, I guess she thought that um even though, oh my gosh, I see, like I'm providing pockets of it and not the full story. But even though I was going to add her name on the lease, she still would not have been able to pay me for like another couple of months. Don't ask. Again, I was standing on the fact that I am a woman of my word. If I said yes, my yes is yes. So we'll get into all that down the line. And I would say that was the year that I learned boundaries. So she felt like, she was working from home, and I don't know if she worked for like an insurance company or whatever the case may be, but she just felt like, there wasn't privacy in the living space, in the living and dining room space, and that we needed to discuss privacy. And it's the way that she brought up the topic, and I was kind of like, that's not something to talk about. That's what the spare room is for. You set up your space in there. Your office should be in your room. This living area is mutual. It's communal. So whatever you talking about, that HIPAA violation has nothing to do with me. That has something to do with you. You're responsible for that, meaning you should get yourself set up in your room like you said you would. Anyways, so I thought, when I read the message, I thought, maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, or maybe like I don't want to jump to conclusion and go off. So let me text a couple of people and see, like, am I tripping? And so when they read the message, they thought I had sent it. And I was like, no, she sent it to me. And they laughed, or they called. They're like, girl, I'm so confused because wait, she don't pay rent. I was like, yeah, I was confused too. They're like, wait, did you move in with her or did she move in with you? I was like, I mean, based on the text, it seems like I moved in with her. And so, of course, that infuriated me because I was like, okay, I'm big on respect, and that was a huge form of disrespect. And the fact that the person lacked self-awareness, or just the lacked a conscious of, hey, you're not contributing. You buy your groceries, that's the least you can do, but you don't pay my bills. You said that you would even contribute to the internet. I still haven't received that money. But you have the audacity to text me like, we need to have this discussion when I get home. And so that conversation led to her trying to charge on me and attack me once, but like almost three times, to the point where, I'm checking my surroundings. I'm in the kitchen. I'm like, okay, I got my knife. I got this pan. I got some things I can use to defend myself. She was taller than me and bigger than me. I mean, I'm like, listen, I'm not going down without a fight, regardless. I don't care how tall you are. I'm going to get a few licks in. You may win, but I'm not going down without a fight. So I was prepared to defend myself. But after that, um, she said that I had said some things about her to other people, and I said I haven't said anything to anyone that I haven't already said to you. Like, I say it to you first, and then I say this is what I said to you. So it's no secret of how I what I've ever said to you. I've never said anything to you behind your back that I hadn't say to your face. And so that's when I realized, I was like, oh, okay, she's been talking to my mom. I don't know what my mother is saying to her. I mean, I don't know. It's giving her the jugular to enforce some ground rules in my space. Well, long story short, um, I asked the young lady to move out of my place. She refused. She felt entitled to my space. She just like, it's not gonna happen. I'm like, it's gonna happen. You gotta leave. You gotta go. Like, I'm not comfortable with you in my space. So I changed my locks. She claimed squatters' rights. Now, the squatters' rights thing is beyond me. And I'm just kind of like, what the what? She had already, I know you guys are gonna be like, wait, I have some questions. That's not what this is about. Okay. This is about what led me to be with Beloved. It's a long journey leading up to be with Beloved. We all have long journeys. We all have journeys. So just track with me for a little bit. I know you have like, okay, wait, this and that. And I have so many questions. And maybe one day I can answer all those questions. So, long story short, the young lady had connected with someone in the police department, in the police force or whatever, and not sure what she said or how she said it, whatever the case may be. But she definitely wanted my head on a spike. She definitely wanted me to, the expression or phrase, hurt people hurt people. I'm going to look back and say that once upon a time, she was hurt. She was hurt by other people, and all she wanted to do was hurt people in return. I am not claiming that I was the cause of that hurt, but I definitely did not help in whatever tripped her up from the past. I knew that there were some things internally happening which made me careful about how I moved around her with her, because I just knew, like, okay, and I warned people. I'm like, in conversation, just avoid certain topics, and if she mentions this, just kind of like, don't dismiss it, but also don't feed into it, right? Because, she felt like she was being watched, and, I think it was the FBI or somebody, and I don't know, somebody was trying to get her. I don't know. But she, wanted my head on a spike. So that meant by any means necessary, I'm going to be the victim, meaning her. And the way everything worked turned out, it was as though like that was her space and not mine. And so that was a whole debacle. And it wasn't just the situation with her that confused me, it was the role my mother played in all of it. Because I heard where people were saying that she was going around telling people that I had made friends, I had joined this little community of people and young adults, and especially Haitian. I'm Haitian. And so there were young Haitian Americans or Haitians in the area, and like I met people even from my mom's hometown. I was like, it's a small world. So that little pocket of community I had found when I relocated to that place. And so I guess for some reason, maybe, I don't know, she didn't like that. She had moved to the area, and I guess she didn't have that community. I don't know. But anyway, she wanted to attack that particular area. I mean, or tarnish my name or try to make me look bad. It didn't work, but I mean, she tried her best. But she was going around telling people that, my mother sided with her, and that, all these things that my mom said about me. Now, I will say that the things that she repeated, I knew these were things my mother had said because my mother had said them to me in the past. And so I knew those to be true. Now, of course, it seemed like my mother sided with her because of whatever she shared with the young lady, that it turned around and that basically came to bite me in the butt, because what reason does she have to disrespect me? I guess I want to say that maybe my mother told her, because my mother has said that to me before, that I didn't have a mind of my own. And I realized it was like a form of control and manipulation. And so she probably told the girl, like, if you see Stacy putting her foot down, if you see Stacy defending herself, it's not her, it's somebody playing in her ear or talking in her ear because she doesn't have a mind of her own, right? So homegirl thought that, okay, I'm gonna just treat Stacy however because her mama said she doesn't have her mind of her own. And she thought wrong. So, I was just kind of like, I'm so confused because my mama don't pay my bills. And my mama's name is so help me understand. Why are you listening to her? Because that just made you look stupid. So even after all of that, it wasn't the fact that what she did or attempted to do to try to tarnish my name or just kind of completely destroy my life, or as that's what she felt. It was the role that my mother played in all of it. And even till this day, like I had spent a few years after all of this kind of subsided to distance myself, because even after all of that, like she will still kind of downplay everything that transpired into, oh, I was just trying to keep the peace. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what that means. Like, you created the chaos, sis. You're the reason why there's no peace, or you played a major role in it. It's my fault for not putting her out along, realizing that sis was crazy from the beginning. And it's my fault for even allowing her to stay as long as I did. But the whole you were trying to create the peace, you went about the wrong way. And so she doesn't realize that I've always known the reason why she got to talking with this young lady is because I think she knew the girl had some stuff going on, but I think she tried to use it to her advantage. Let me get some information about my daughter, to see what my daughter's up to see like what's going on in her life, because she's not really allowing me in to know everything. And so this young lady is making up stories about me. And I was just so confused because after the fact, my mom is just acting like the victim. Like, how could she betray me like that? And I'm kind of like, betray you? Like, what? Because you were like, yeah, man, like my daughter doesn't have a mind of her own, so just go ahead and disrespect her. Like, she's not going to do anything. She's a punk. So you can just, I know it's her space, but make it your own. Just take control of it, because she's just not bold enough to be, to stand up to bullies. And I dislike bullies. I Yeah. So, anyways, I hope I'm not rambling, but that was the catalyst for me. And that was also something when because I was in the middle of it, of going to court and all that, and I felt alone. And that's after everything happened. My mom is like, oh, now she want to be on my side. And I was like, no, I don't want you here. No, I don't want you. I want your support. I didn't have your support then. You think I'm going to have it now? Like, I don't want it. And I was so ashamed. It wasn't even about everything that happened with her. It was my mother, and knowing like, dang, you would do anything to just have that control in my life, to be the source of all things in my life. And I was completely like, I kind of knew, you have that intuition, you kind of know, but you still kind of don't believe that it's possible. Like people say, not your mama. And I would kind of not share that, because I'm like, that's never been my experience. Or some people are like, I call on my mom. Like, I can't imagine my life without my mom. And I've kind of like, I can't relate. I can't say when I'm in the middle of something that she's the first person I want to call. Like, even till this day, big old age of my 30s, I still don't have that. Oh, I need my mother. It wasn't something I've had for a very, very long time. So I couldn't relate, but I also didn't reject someone's experience because I couldn't understand it. And so I was present with that person, but I wasn't like, well, I can't relate, so I'm going to dismiss it because I just can't relate, or it triggered me. Try not to let my triggers affect how I interact with other people. because it's not their fault that that's just my relationship with my mother. And so I will say that a few months after all that happened, I remember when I left court, it was like the wildest thing because I was even the attorney, I was drained in so many ways, and even the attorney that I paid for was I was kind of like at one point asked him, I was like, "Wait, are you my attorney or are you her attorney? I'm so confused right now." But it was just kind of like I felt like not I felt my back was against the wall that time. My back was against the wall. And I was also having like external problems like in the workplace, and being the only black person in that space and the only black person, black woman in that space was just did not help either. And so I really did get to a point where I felt like my life, my back literally was against the wall, and I just couldn't see a way out, couldn't find a light at the end of the tunnel. And I would say, like, I grew up in the church. I've always known, believe God to be real. I've always believed in a higher power, higher being. But I would say I've had encounters growing up, but I would say in that season, that moment where I felt completely alone, that I believe that God met me where I was, and God placed people in my life to meet me where I was. Even though these new individuals who came into my life didn't know the backstory, they didn't know what I was dealing with. I was so ashamed by what transpired. I was so ashamed that it didn't matter how much progress I may have made in my life. Like, I felt like there was a whole reset and it was taken away from me. And I also felt like just a parent not wanting their child to progress or wanting the best for their child and doing anything possible to make it happen. Like, some parents would go to the extreme to make sure their child is good, right? And for me, I felt like, oh my gosh, like it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter what I was achieving or what I was striving for. It didn't matter because all the person ever wanted was me to be right where they wanted me, right? And some people, you will find that in your life, in your circle. Not saying it's going to be your parent, but if that is the case, I'm sorry, but some people, they don't want to see you anywhere else but where they want you. And that could be right beside them, right beneath them, right behind them, you know? So I think for me, it was that, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter what I do. She doesn't care about me achieving success. She doesn't care about me, you should want your child to do more and greater, right? She doesn't care about that. She just want to control my life. And how I said that, I felt it. This entire situation confirmed it, but it wasn't until like a couple of months after the craziness and things began to kind of quiet down because I hadn't called her and she called me out of the blue because it had been a couple of months. And it was more so like she was calling to keep tabs on me and I cannot make this up. And even when I share it with her, she still denies it because in her mind, it's like, I'm a mother. How can I say something like that? And it's kind of like, are you gaslighting me? Like, you are not going to gaslight me. But unfortunately, that's what happened. That's my lived experience. And I'm like, you can't tell me that didn't happen. That's not something I could make up. That's not something I would want to make up. I wouldn't want to make up something like this. But she said to me, she's calling to check in. I thought she was calling to check in, but it was more so, hey, why haven't you called me trying to come back home, to come back to me? Why haven't you made that call? Like, I know for a fact your back is against the wall. I know for a fact that, girl, there's no way out. Like, your life is over. You might as well come back and let's just let things go back to the way they used to be. And like she said, haven't you had enough? Like, why are you still there? Like, it's not going to get any better for you. You might as well just come back because there's just no way your life is going to get better. Well, during that time, like I said, I was very tender and I was still grappling with everything that had happened, and I'm questioning, and I'm like, God, I'm so confused right now. And I remember my boss's husband, sweet guy, and he's like, no good deed goes unpunished. And for a long time, I was like, what? What the heck does that even mean? And why is that even a phrase? Why? This shouldn't be. And yeah. So my mom said, haven't you had enough? Like, your life is over. Just come back. Come back home. Like as if she's saying, I'll allow you to come back home if you admit that you tried to make it out there on your own, or you thought your life would be better off without me in it. I think by now you could see that your life will not progress if I'm not in it. That for me, that's when I realized, crap. No, I'm not going back. I wasn't going to admit that for me, I was actually in my head believing that this was it for me. I was like, there is no way forward. How do I even move forward? What does that even look like? I can't even tell anyone right now what moving forward looks like, because people say the only way is up. And I didn't feel like that was an option for me. So even when she said that, I paused and I didn't say a word. I low key believed it, but I didn't admit to it. And the conversation ended there. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So sorry for the long video, but I will continue the sequence of the journey and what led me here to this space, Be with Beloved. So for anyone who is watching this, I want you to know that you may find yourself, you may think that your back is against the wall. You may think that there is no way forward. I am a living example. I am a prime example that yes, there is a way forward. I wouldn't be here today if that weren't the case. So right now, as you can see, as I live and breathe, there's always a way. You may not be able to make that way, but there is always a way out. And there's a way forward, to not give up, to not throw in the towel, to not allow the external voices to dictate and determine that you've met your end, you've reached your end, and this is the end of it. So I hope that you will tune in next week for more stories, pockets, sequences of me, Stacy, the curator, and why Be with Beloved exists. Until next time.